night.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Horrornightoasis, a radio show where we discuss all the latest movies and news from the world of horror. Joining me tonight, as always, is my co-host, Ian. Ian, are you there?
I am.
Ian, here we are, another week. How are you doing, my friend?
I am doing as good as I can be.
Yeah, that's about the best way to do it. I went out a little bit and noticed a little bit of more snow coming down. Like, that's exactly what we need is more snow. But it didn't accumulate, so
Yeah,
maybe it was just a brief passing of a dusting of snow because it covered the car and that was about it. So, like, please, no more snow. Let this melt because you can't do anything. Like, my driveway's still completely frozen. But nonetheless, you know, just it's not melting fast enough. Usually with these snowstorms, they just a couple days and they start to melt. But where the clouds have been just like covering over the sky and the sun's not having a chance to beam its light through, it's just taking forever. And plus the degrees and everything, it's just cold. But I digressed. We're here. We're continuing on this, whatever you want to call it, marathon of the madness of Louisa, and it is it's starting to get that way, but maybe we still have some issues to deal with these films, especially tonight. Tonight's film on the docket, which we'll get into. But yeah, Miss Louisa, as we mentioned last week and the week before, she's went down a weird rabbit hole of directing, and this one is no different. But let's get into it, Ian. Ouija Castle.
Alrighty.
Ouija Castle. This one, I mean, honestly, out of all the newer ones, this one like wasn't the most like I was really wanting to divulge into that much. It just didn't have a strong synopsis on the on its page and everything. It's just like doesn't really draw you in, and especially a title, Ouija Castle. It's just not one of those where, like Pigman draws you in, like because of it's a Pigman. Punch and Judy because it's, stupid puppets. This one, it just like felt generic a little bit with its plot synopsis, and then going into it, it has a little bit of a lengthy runtime. It's almost 2 hours, about an hour 40. So it has that going for it. It's not our longest film. I mean, we might cover that one at a later date, but it's yeah, that one's really is 2 hours. But I decided to throw, just like say F it and just like let's do this one. It just to see what it's like. And so Ouija Castle is essentially it's Snow White. The central focus and story of it, not to be confused with Louise's other film, which we might review, which was her Cinderella offering. Basically everything that I expected to happen in the Cinderella movie happened in this one, which is kind of funny. So I'm kind of curious now about Cinderella. But we're introduced to a couple characters off the bat. Talia is a princess. Her mother is heir to the throne because her father passed away recently. Before the film starts, he's passed away recently, and Talia is supposed to marry Edison, which is or no, wait a second. Yeah, marry Edison, and Edison's mom is basically the heir to the throne, right? That's I'm getting a few things confused a little bit, but so she's supposed to marry him, but then Velma is basically the witch or the Maleficent character of the film, and she wants her daughter Sophia to marry Edison, and so she goes on herself to snuff out Talia in hopes of Sophia marrying Edison and going through the wedding. And Velma uses she uses a skin crafted Ouija board with a planchette and everything. It's like skin, half of it's like a human face on the top portion corner of it, and she's talking to this other character, which we'll get into a little bit later, that unveils itself. But yeah, so basically the first act is technically Snow White, where Velma comes along. She's an old hag looking character, has a bag of apples. Her and Sophia take Talia to an old barn or a mill somewhere like that, and she finds another character, which later on we're kind of figure out is the sister to Edison, because he's looking for his sister throughout the remainder of the film. And so at the beginning of it, so basically they're trying to, again, like I said, marriage is the main task on their radar, and so trying to get rid of all the other people that's in their way to unify the marriage, so Velma can become like a grand witch in a sense. And so they get her to the inside the mill, and Talia pricks her finger on a cutting stone, and she kind of passes out. So I guess it's like poisonous, the cutting stone is. I don't know, but she just pricks her finger and then she passes out, which causes her to go into a coma for 8 months. And during, so we're now like, again, 8 months later into the film, and now Edison and Sophia are dating, or about to get married, engaged. And Velma is, again, doing her things, trying to get everything ready for her daughter, Sophia. She's talking to the entity of the Ouija board. And there's also another subplot, which we'll be getting into, that's another heavy-handed subject, as with these new films of Louisa. And so basically, again, Talia is, again, in a coma, and one of the butlers is kind of taking care of her in her state of need, as well as the maids. But the butler comes in there, washes her face, pats her down, and we learn that Talia is now pregnant. And a little bit later on in the film, we learn that it's I think it's twins, or I'm assuming, because they talk about it, give me back my children all the time. So I think it's twins. And Velma has a falling out with Edison's mother and kills him, and or one of the mothers, I don't know. It's someone's mother dies. Again, I don't know if it's Talia's or Edison's. Honestly, like I know it's one of their mothers, but I think it's Talia's mother, but I digress. And so because like he comes in there like, I'm sorry, but your mother died, right? So it's Talia's mother. And then that causes Talia to awake from her 8-month coma. And now Edison, because like he doesn't really love Sophia, he's just kind of shoehorned into that relationship. And once Talia awakens, that causes Sophia to go into a fit. It causes Velma to start manipulating and planning things to benefit herself and Sophia. And then that's the general gist of the film as it progresses throughout with a bunch of just shit happening. It's not like crazy shit. It's just like mean-spirited shit. In a sense, it's just like when I messaged you, Ian, I wrote this to you, and it still rings true. It's like one of those mobile game ads that you see trailers for, where like someone's pregnant and like the boyfriend leaves and kicks them out for another girl, and like they're freezing outside, and then they're freezing to death, or they're dying, and they're in poverty. And it's like that, but with a Snow White setting, where like she's pregnant, she has twins, and then like all this other stuff starts to make its way through the crowd, and like then like Velma starts to attack people that's involved in Talia's life, and make her life a living hell, and so does Sophia. And then like we're again the butler comes into play, and it just culminates to the big sort of finale towards the around the 1 hour mark, is when all water breaks loose, and then that's when hell goes down. And so that kind of is the crucial turning point of the film, where Talia gets sort of justice and revenge on all those that wronged her prior to the film, leading up to the event. And again, I don't want to get into spoilers just yet, but honestly, to be truthful, I didn't mind this one. I didn't really have that many issues, to be honest, besides its length. There's a lot of moments where it could have been trimmed down, could have been sort of faster, quicker paced, especially like some of the like just nonchalant moments, like the maid like going through the like straightening the curtains, cleaning up, and then it's supposed to be this build up to like seeing what's inside this pot that's over top of fire, and it's just like all build up to like nothing. You could have done some like quick cuts and edits and stuff like that, or done it in one fell swoop, instead of just like, if like again, it was just like 3 minutes of just like nothing, for honestly like a nothing reveal, until again a little bit later for the actual reveal. But there's just like a lot of stuff. There's just like the same thing back and forth. Velma just wanting what's hers, and just like no one's gonna stop her. Like she wants to be the queen, rule this kingdom, because now she's taken out the Talia's mother, and like now she'll be her daughter will be thrown to the air, and she'll be able to control and rule and all that stuff. So it's very Disney princess fluff, Snow White stuff. But then it takes a turn again, like I mentioned. And but yeah, like I said, it gets a little bit bloodier. This is definitely the most like gore or bloody practical effects. I mean, Punch and Judy had some, but this one's like definitely more I wouldn't say schlocky, but it's definitely more, just like visceral.
Yeah.
And it's not the best, but for the budget and everything, and especially for a Louisa film, it's better than you would expect. And I was kind of into it. And then of course, like the last act where it turns into Carrie, for a little bit, I kind of like that aspect. And like there's some good shots. I mean, honestly, there were some good visual shots of like, when Talia starts to go on her murder spree. There's just like some like beautiful imagery and some, just the way that Talia looks in her dress, and the mask comes involved. And again, some of the, the stabbings towards the last act. I really did like the last act. And then of course the entity of the board, the Ouija board, which was like, I thought it was Zozo, but apparently it's Zadzid. But I'm just going to call it Zozo because it's easier than Zazid, as the entity of the board. But that comes into play where, like, it's basically the mirror of the Maleficent character, the witch character, talking to it. Like, it's giving her like all the wishes that she wants and power, and she's using the board to get this, talking to it. And again, that comes into play later on. But again, I dug this one, honestly. It was a very rough start. Just trying to get, because it starts right in your face, with the heavy handedness, like, oh, so we're going there that quick. You didn't even take me out to dinner first. You're just gonna bend me over and bareback me. That's what I felt like. And I was like, seriously, like, okay, we're just gonna go that route now. So it's pretty, like, as soon as you start, it's like, no, this is what we're doing. And then again, it kind of builds onto that, and just like, it's just again more of the mean spirited aspect of the film, and just Talia and her vengeance building throughout the film. And again, the blood and the gore was a nice surprise. I didn't really expect too much of that, but it was done sufficiently. And again, like I said, some of the scenes were pretty solid, and it really kind of like pulled me back into the movie. Again, at the hour mark, because again, like Louisa was talking to my heart or something. Because one thing I loved is what happened at that hour mark, and it's just like, oh, she must have knew, like, they're gonna review this. How many years? Who knows? Two random people, but I know that one guy, he likes stuff happening with babies, and she kind of pulled me in once the wall broke. But Ian, I'll let you give your thoughts, and then we'll go back and forth and get into the spoilers.
Well, no, I actually kind of really enjoyed this movie, more than I thought I would, honestly. Like you said, there was some spots that were kind of but overall, I thought it was a pretty solid film. Like, I'm honestly like kind of shocked by how much I actually like this film. The cinematography was okay. They did bump the camera a few times, because you would like when they would get up from a bed, you'd see the camera kind of like rocking, so you could tell like they were bumping it. I thought that was kind of funny. But like, as far as stories go, like, I feel like this is one of her probably the best made movie. Like, it actually had like a solid premise.
Yeah.
And it knew where it wanted to go and what she wanted to do it, how she wanted to do it. And like, the location was great. The costumes were great. The masks, like, you can tell they're wearing rubber masks at the end, and it's pretty obvious, like the high-end Spirit Halloween masks. But overall, like, there's good amount of gore. There wasn't a whole lot of like pointless scenes. Everything like was building up to the next scene. There was a couple of parts where I was like, this is a little too slow for me, but it's what it is.
Yeah, like once things start ramping up, there is moments where it just like slows back down. Like, come on, man, keep it up. You had that hour mark, like greatness, and then just like, and then it starts to slowly build, and then you have to go back a few notches.
Yeah, and that was one of the things I had an issue with sometimes was but it wasn't so bad where I was completely uninterested in what was going on. Like it felt like like if like a lot of her movies, like you could skip a giant chunk of it and you won't miss anything. This one actually like earned its length. And I'm just sitting here like I'm praising a Louisa film.
Well,
like what is
that's the thing,
what is
man.
life?
They're far and few in between. Like the only other one that I think we really liked was Pagan Warrior or Vikings versus Krampus, and like that had issues, but it was like it was decent. It was like it was fine for what it was, and
Yeah.
especially compared to all the other stuff that we went through that year that we watched, and like, and of course, like you look at this and you look at the Leprechaun films, and like there's totally a substantial difference. Like it's actually a film.
Oh yeah.
It's like it's just so night and day, where like things actually make sense to the story and sort of crucial, and like there's character development. It's not just thrown in there, and like this character is going through hell, torment for like the entire movie. It's just like nothing but just like misery for this character, and then to they get the comeuppance at the end, where it's just like, yeah, it's earned. So it's like it's a total difference, from her previous works and the other ones that we've watched this marathon as well.
Yeah. Yeah, no, like this movie definitely was literally the better of the films. Like the period piece, the little ballroom scene was pretty nice. It did get very
No,
Carrie.
yeah. No, I think that ballroom scene, before we get, I mean, we're going to get into spoilers, but I'm just going to go ahead and say it. That ballroom scene is probably the best thing she ever filmed and directed.
No, 100%. Like, I was
That
just
was the
sitting, I was like,
best
holy
thing,
shit. Yeah.
like hands down. That's probably my favorite thing that she's ever done. I mean, this is for her previous works. It's not the craziness that is a Leprechaun's Game or Curse, where you're just again pulling your hair out and just like laughing at it. This is hands down probably the one of the. I mean, even if it is Snow White, Carrie, slasher stuff, but like that ballroom scene is just chef's
And
kiss, for what it
like,
was.
yeah, and for this movie to be a spin off or like a its own spin on the whole Snow White, I think it actually like held up pretty well. Like I was just like, man, this I was expecting garbage, Ouija Castle.
Yeah.
Like I was just like, okay. I was curious of like what they were going to do with this, and honestly, it made sense. I mean, it was a little the premise was a little odd, but like it wasn't bad.
No.
It was cohesive. like, so and but there was a lot of good scenes, like her getting her face cut off. And yeah, the common theme this also has to deal with sexual
Yeah.
assault.
Hold on 1 second.
Oh,
Spoilers.
yeah.
Spoilers.
Spoilers.
let's get into it.
Yeah. The sexual, like, but this one wasn't a throwaway like the other two were.
No.
Like, it actually played a crucial role in the story. And everything that came of that. And I was just like, okay. It's like, at least this is not going to be just like a, one and done kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it was actually like, yeah, no.
No, it turns out, like, we have to preface this a little bit or else people won't know. But with the butler, where he's been taking care of Talia, he basically impregnated her against her will while she was in a coma. So that's the heavy-handed subject matter of this one, where he physically forced himself and fell in love with a person in a coma and knocked her up. And then they played the card where, like, it could have been Edison's kids, and then they play into that, and then the maids find out, and then they kind of use that knowledge against Edison, but then they use Edison, Velma and Sophia use Edison to their advantage to kill and attack those that are against them. So they have a pawn. And so, like, you think, oh, like, it just kind of falls into place for, like, where Talia is not going to get, like, any, her comeuppance yet, where it's just, like, total, everything's fallen on me. And, like, they're just doing everything to just, like, kick her and punch her down and just, like, just be mean to her throughout the film, to get their way, basically, where she, her mother died, her dad died. And then, then where it eventually leads, where, because Velma, being a witch, she uses blood, sort of like Elizabeth Bathory sort of thing, where she rubs blood on her face, and her daughter does, Sophia does the same thing too, to stay younger, because that's another thing that Zazid gave her, gave her like immortality or something like that, but like she's aging still, and so, like, to keep her, she's using blood and stuff like that. And eventually, once she finds out that the Edison finds out that the babies aren't his, that's when he kind of goes the other route to Sophia, and that's when they cut her face off, the pill, the face off. And then it's sort of, again, that's where, like, if you look at the image on the poster, it kind of reminded me of Savage Lust from, like, the 80s. And, like, very similar, where, like, a woman had, like, a similar type of mask and, like, a scarred up face behind it, and she was killing people in a old rundown house off the side of the, in the woods. Very similar to that Savage Lust from the 80s. But, like, but this one has, again, that Snow White vibe. And then again, we're still getting into a little bit of spoilers because we're gonna do all this, but eventually she's confronting Velma and Sophia, and her water breaks. And then this is where the oh shit moment happens, where, like, there's a change in the atmosphere. And this is where it kind of, like, in my book, where it sort of did the On Halloween vibe, where it's like that first hour took a while, and it's just like, my God, is anything going to happen? But then to get to the forest and the woods, and then it's just all hell breaks loose. Well, this one, it does a very sort of similar approach, where the water breaks, and then, like, oh, we're going to go there with the babies. We're going to give them, we're going to birth them, and then we're just going to automatically kill them. And and it's just like, yeah, we're going for the gusto. We're not only going to kill them, we're going to beat them into nothing, and then put them in a pot for stew, and then rub their blood on our faces. It's just like, hell yeah, double down. That's the part where I was like, hell yeah, Louisa. because me and my weird fascination for, again, it is what it is. It's well known that I have that's just something I just, like, find joy in, even though it's terrible. Don't get me wrong, but it's just like it's the dumbest. I just love stupid, taboo shit like that, and then it's just like birthing them both, and then just like going in there and just like beating them to death, and then showing it, and then like putting them in the stew, and then that big build up to where the maid's coming in and cleaning the room and straightening things, and then it's the fake out, and then finally, she Talia goes into the room, and then she opens, pulls the lid off the pot, and there's a severed baby arm, just like, what? Hi, Mom.
Yeah. No, there was some like fucked up scenes.
Yeah, that definitely like threw me for a loop too, because like it's a Louisa film, like it's just like I did not expect that to go that way, like like with
No,
the
definitely
heavy-handed
not.
stuff of the previous films, like it just like felt, like again, as you mentioned, it felt out of place, and like this one, it made sense to the story. It was crucial. It made the plot progress forward for each character that involved. And then as we said with Pigman, the character didn't get his comeuppance, and he just becomes like this ultra. He becomes the monster. And this one, like everything that's happening, the princess that was this innocent lady, this innocent girl, turns into the monster and is like in the necessary, for revenge, like all the comeuppance for everything that she's had to deal with, and the atonement that she wants to get. And it's just, it works. I mean, again, a few parts here and there, kind of like I said, it could have been trimmed, a little bit here and there to make it flow better. But then you get to that ballroom scene, and that, as we said before, that ballroom scene is just, like I said, it's Carrie, but it's with a knife, and she's just going haywire, stabbing, slashing. I think there's one of the characters later on gets the scalped, and there's some throat slit, and there's some good stuff that happens in that. And again, it's just a well shot sequence of events, that ballroom scene, and it kind of continues, especially like later on, like when she's like confronting Velma, and like there's a shot in like with like a bookcase behind her, or a study, and like the candlelight, and it's like hitting her face weird, and it looked like something like out of like a Twisted Metal, like doll face.
Yeah.
So it had that sort of that video game vibe to it.
Yeah, and it was just such a weird film. Because and weird in the way that it was weird for her.
Yeah.
Like, this is definitely like not something I was expecting going into this movie. And I'm pleasantly surprised. Like, I think she must have had a really good like writing team, because it feels like, she had an actual like nice sized budget for this film, opposed to the other two. So, I mean,
no, it's definitely like her best improvement ever as a director. Like, again, it still has some issues. Like, I'm not gonna, again, it didn't need to be an hour and 40, but it wasn't too bad. I mean, it still kept you intrigued, because of how everything ebbed and flowed. But
yeah,
and then like the gore and the practical effects and the blood, and like that was a nice surprise. And again, it's just like everything after the hour mark, it was just like that came out of nowhere. It was like that's different for Louisa, and like it wasn't as heavy-handed and in your face as the previous two films. That just like it's Me Too moment just came out of nowhere, and just like, here you are,
right,
look at it. This one just like, oh, so we're kind of just like slowly, we're going to creep this at the beginning and just slowly weave its way into the story until, that character gets what's his, just desserts.
Yeah, like, and like, I can honestly, like, I think this movie could be a rewatcher too. Like, I think there's a little bit of rewatch value in this. probably like in a year or so.
Mm-hmm.
And I never thought I'd say that about one of Louisa's films, but hey, like I was like, oh, okay, the quality. I was like, when I put it on and I started seeing the quality of the film, I was just like, oh, okay, this actually doesn't look too bad. I mean, other than like minor like things here and there.
Yeah, just it's again, it's just its length really, and just like not really pushing. Like if it kept that pace for like the hour mark on just like a little bit earlier, but it's a slow burn. I guess it's a slow build to the
Yeah.
eruption at the end. But yeah, it was again, like I said, like we said, it's again probably her best work, because like that ballroom scene, again, I can't really harp on it enough. It's like the best thing she's ever done that
Oh
I've
yeah,
witnessed.
no. Yeah, no, I was just sitting there just like dumbfounded about how good this was. Um but yeah, I mean this was a straightforward movie. Nothing really to complain about. Like we can only
Yeah,
sing
like
its praise.
nothing like out of the ordinary stupid. Like, grandma, are you up there? Your grandma died at the beginning of the movie. She's not there. It's just like the stupid things like that where it's just like it falls apart. Like this one didn't really give me too many issues where it just like crumbled in on itself. It was just like you said, straightforward, Snow White, princess, Carrie inspired slasher film.
Yeah, it like the turn it takes too at the end, like I honestly kind of didn't expect it. I wasn't
Yeah.
expecting it to go where it did.
And I will
Like,
say that I kind of harp on again, like you had all that blood and practical effects, and then you use the crappy CGI to do a beheading, and just like that kind
yeah,
of
I
like I
saw
wanted to
that.
see
I
an
was like,
actual,
ugh.
yeah, like that kind of
That,
like one, that's another thing. Like it's a minor qualm, after everything you sat through, with the blood and practical effects, just to use a CGI beheading is just like, you could have done so much better there.
yeah, I like that they took the
But
face off.
yeah,
That was fun.
I mean, there's nothing better than seeing someone get their face ripped off.
I was
It's a
like,
good
oh,
effect.
oh shit. I was watching it like, oh my god.
Yeah.
I wasn't prepared for that one. Like I just thought they were going to kill her or whatever, but like, oh, that's just okay. Face getting cut off. Nice.
Yeah. No, it's definitely a nice surprise. Like I said, once that water breaks out, that's when seasons change.
Right.
And that was that was the winter storm right there coming through, causing damage, blowing things up, people falling off cliffs, car crashes. It's just an onslaught of murder and
Yeah.
bloodshed.
And especially for her period pieces, because
Yeah.
she's done several.
Yeah.
And like this one was actually like also like the best done and the best looking one.
Yeah. I mean, definitely, of course, like compared to Scarecrow's Revenge and Pagan Warrior, because those were rather on the cheap side, and you can tell. They just use like a little tiny hut. It's like a little hub for like the sisters, which I think Louisa made a cameo in that one, and then like they just use like the outside of the castle, or is it just like a old castle that they found somewhere in like England, that you can use the outside for it and you can have your battles there. Like this one, you're like inside, and like it looks good, it looks the part, and like I said, it's visually appealing. It has some good set pieces. It's a little lengthy, which kind of dampers it, but it's a slow build to the eventual payoff. And solid character development. Everyone's, for the most part, everyone's well written, and it serves its purpose, and it's not shoehorned in there like the other films. And it's just like, again, it's so weird, that she did, the other two films, Punch and Judy and Pigman, and like, and of course, like earlier films, but like this one is just like so, like how this one came about, it's just like they still managed to get the Me Too in there, and stuff like that with the assault on the sexual assault when she's in a coma, but it made sense, it wasn't just like punch you in the face, here it is, like what the hell, I didn't expect to get knocked down to the floor, randomly.
No,
but
like
this one is just like
in Punch,
it doesn't really ease you in, but yeah, I mean, it kind of just like, it's not, it's pretty on in your face, but it's not like, okay, like, oh, this guy's kind of creepy, and like, oh, this is extra, he's extra creepy and weird.
Yeah. Well,
and then just like, okay, I get it now.
Yeah. I mean, like, it still didn't do what I was hoping for. Like, but, with the, like, because it was kind of there and kind of just, it was just a little awkward at some parts. But at the same time, I was just like, it's what it is. I mean, it wasn't terrible, and it was definitely done better than the last two. Oh, your brother sexually assaulted me, and okay, everything's fine.
Yeah, just want a family. No, like we're grading this on a curve, honestly, just because it's Louisa, and like we're comparing it to her other films. So again, if you haven't watched her other films, and there's a lot, like you're probably gonna watch this and like they don't know what they're talking about. We're like we've watched. I swear, I think I've watched most of her filmography. I think there's like 10 that I haven't watched, and like again, comparatively speaking, this is, to be honest, probably it has, again, it's just could have been shorter, cut down a few minutes here and there, and just like made the pacing a little bit quicker, because it's just like, again, I know it's a slow build, but it could have been paced a little faster to get things moving a little bit, because once when the water breaks, then it's full charge. It could have done that a little faster, but it's just like it's her best work, because that ballroom scene, you can't look at that and just say, where did this come from? Because this is not the same Louisa that we know. Because that was just like so out there. Like this is a visually stunning, well shot sequence, and it's just like, I have to give her props, because you have that, and then you have the fucking hand puppets and Punch and Judy and the bullshit that happens in that. Like, what happened here? Is there some kind of disconnection happening here?
Yeah.
Like it's just so weird that I guess she's having fun, but again, that one's so straightforward too, and like the puppets don't work with like the nature of that film, and like this one, like at least it works with the tone of the film that's trying to tell, and like it's just like the scenes work, and it's just like it's a good revenge piece, for what it is, and you just have to look at it in different, you have to look at it in faded, not faded, but tinted glasses a little bit, and but skew your opinion. But it's just it's a again, it's fine. It's better than probably anything else that she's done, because it's just like, again, it does get a little heavy-handed with just the talking, because it's just talking, and like
there was
could have done a little bit more intriguing conversations. I mean, it's still okay for what they're trying to push to the eventual conclusion, and especially for her character development. But it does kind of still have moments where it's just like, get on with it, and then the water breaks, and then again, like you get moments like that where like it's going forward, but then it just like slips and falls a little bit, and just like starts over again. Like, oh man, you were going on a good stride there, and you have to go back a few minutes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, all in all, like, I would take this over the other two movies.
Oh yeah, yeah. This is right now. This is top. I mean, there's no sugarcoating it, but we still got one more, and
it's probably gonna be the worst one.
we will find out. We're probably gonna have to spin the wheel and find out what that one does for us. Because there's a couple ideas. There's two, but we'll have to flip a coin or something. But Ian, I really don't think there's that much to say regarding this one.
Really
I mean, we pretty much talked it up. You know, like I said, like usually the bad ones kind of go on longer. This one, if there's only just a few minor qualms and issues, there's really not. You know, the pacing is just conversations aren't that great for what I went over it already. I don't need to diatribe it again, but it's just like it's decent for a Louisa film, and it's like the most
good job.
It's a good job, Louisa. So Ian, I don't have anything else to say. I think that does it for this episode. Either. And as always, Ian, it's great talking with you to discuss these films that shouldn't get discussed, but you never know.
Right.
But I digress. I appreciate everyone for listening. So thank you for sticking with us for this Madness of Louisa marathon. You know, maybe I don't suggest going back to a lot of her films, but this one is the ugly duckling that just sticks out, you know, just like this is just one of those where just like, yeah, we can, you know, to someone like us, you know, like I can recommend that one, you know, like from her humble beginnings, just making shelf filler to like still making shelf filler. Like this probably would have been the Snow White mockbuster if it came out the same, you know, when the Snow White movie was supposed to come out last year, whenever, before it got pushed back. So this is like the Snow White in theaters. No, Mom, we got, like we have Snow White at home. You know, this is that one, but still, like, it's just Snow White with gore. That's all it is, and blood, and it turns into Carrie. So it's a Snow White Carrie. As always, we appreciate you all listening, and we will see you next time for our conclusion of the Madness of the Louisa Marathon. Thank you, and we will see you next time on Horror Night Oasis.
Good night.